people as far as this person who's unemployed. He's talking about the weak people, the New World Order being so few against the strong, the people of the world who don't want this apparatus to come into play, that know what these guys have up their sleeve in the long run. We've read the Bible. We know what it looks like. We know what they want to bring into fruition. We know what's coming. The playbook's in your hands. Everybody's got one. And so when he's saying we want to protect the weak from the strong and have freedom and peace, he's talking about the freedom to stop the rest of the world from allowing these guys to make laws freely and in peace so that they can't be stopped by the people. That's the doublespeak these guys are using, and it's very, very nefarious when you listen to it and you realize these guys aren't talking to the American people. They're talking to their bosses behind them. So with that, this entire system that Commander-in-Chief Russell J. Gould has taken over, he's corrected that system and taken it out of their hands, because the entire international admiralty and maritime law of the sea system, he rewrote all the codes and statutes and laws in relation to that and quantized everything into a mathematical, grammatical fact, disqualifying the old system because it was all grammar fraud. So he's taken tactical command and control of the entire system and taking it away from these guys, like taking matches from a little kid and spanking him on the backside for trying to burn the house down. That's exactly what this guy has done. In relation to a one world global government or a new world order, Commander-in-Chief Russell J. Gould's system is not that biblical or biblically prophesied one world government, new world order that is going to be so tyrannical that it crushes everyone beneath its foot. He literally stopped that from happening. And because they didn't want to play with him, because of what he had done was so great, and he had moved so fast, and he only alerted the upper echelons and told the bad guys, hey, I'm taking command and control here. He failed, and a huge oversight on his part was that he failed to tell the non-commissioned officer chain of command in the military what he was doing so people could get behind him and thank him for saving the country from, one, a surrender and takeover, and from, two, the New World Order apparatus's attempt to conquer the planet. He stopped it right in his tracks, but because he moved so fast and didn't alert the rest of the military, the bad guys kicked him to the side and placed in the Federal Reserve. So the banks moved in, the Federal Reserve Board moved into the Postmaster General position up in Washington, D.C., and chose a new Postmaster General. And that's all chronicled in the Congressional Record, which is all to be found in the 1999 Government Reformation Act. The government needed to be restructured anyway, because it was the end of the third and final international bankruptcy. But prior to that, we know this was a takeover attempt and a surrender attempt back to Great Britain, because the Amero was sitting there waiting prior to the end of the third and final international bankruptcy in 1999. They had the Amero set. They were waiting to get the Americans to join the European Union. It was already in place. We were this close to being surrendered, and he stopped it in its tracks. So when that happened, like I said, they didn't want to play ball with him. And as we looked at what was happening there, the P2 Mason lodges, the Knights of Malta, the Knights of Columbus, and the Jesuits were losing their minds. I mean, these guys were pulling their hair out, because Russell J. Gould was not groomed by the P2 Mason lodges. He's not a Mason. He's not a Knight of Columbus. He's not a Knight of Malta. He's not a Jesuit. He's an American, a guy from Wyoming who was smart enough to figure this whole thing out and save the country from being surrendered. So with that, no one wanted to play with him, because there was no way to control this guy. There's no way to blackmail this individual. You can't pin pedophilia on him. You can't pin racketeering on him. He has done nothing but save the nation, set up a whole new construct globally. So because there's no way to blackmail or control this guy, they don't want to let him take over because he doesn't adhere to their standard operating procedures. He doesn't adhere to any other of their beliefs, their belief systems, their belief structure, and they did not want to let him take tactical command and control the way he had. So after 12 years of these guys not wanting to play ball and just move forward in a factual manner in relation to what really took place here on this planet, in relation to the United States coming to the end of its third and final international bankruptcy, in relation to the fact that this gentleman captured the flag, in relation to the fact that this gentleman legged into the United Nations, in relation to the fact that he was declared a sovereign, and in relation to the fact that he legged back in here at the post office of Washington, D.C. in the United States, taking tactical command and control of the jurisdiction or the District of Columbia and all of the war powers. They didn't want to play ball at that. So he, at that point, mails himself around the world and sets up this entire global construct. It says, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and open the United States up. I'll open my government system back up, and in the process, take it all down. And the last thing he did was in 2012, after these guys moved forward for 12 years in an act of fraud. Basically is what they did, because in reality what happened, they didn't tell the American people, hey, we need a new banking constitution created. We need a new Senate elected. We need a new Congress elected. We need to resubstantiate how we're going to bring forward a president and what he's going to be in charge of, and set the parameters up for that, what he will be in charge of, how the bankruptcy will work if we're even still going to ever have to go through another bankruptcy, but how Russell's banking system worked. The president was to be in charge of that. He would be the administrator of the finances still. So the system for the system of government for the United States didn't necessarily come to an end. It just needed to be, the new system needed to be recognized, and it needed to be brought into place. It just needed to be brought forward, and we could have kept going forward in a factual, proper manner in relation to what actually happened on planet Earth. But instead, they didn't want to play that, and they put in the Federal Reserve in there in Washington, D.C., and they've moved forward the way they have for the last 17 years. So after a 12-year run, on December 21st, 2012, Commander-in-Chief Russell J. Gould and David Windmiller went down and opened up the Benjamin Franklin Post Office in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, when you look at Washington, D.C., you have Admiralty. That is the Admiralty and Maritime Jurisdiction of the Sea, because it belonged to the King of Great Britain. And that's how he runs his country, under the Admiralty and Maritime Law of the Sea. Everybody's considered a little boat or a little vessel or a piece of cargo that's presumed missing, dead, or lost at sea. Same thing here in the United States. So that's the Admiralty and Maritime Jurisdiction of the Sea. So then he goes down to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is the civil jurisdiction law of the land, and opens up the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania post office, which had been closed down with the start of the American Revolution. And it couldn't be opened back up because they owed 1.6 million francs to the French, so they were in bankruptcy. Bankrupt people can't contract, so they weren't allowed to open up commerce through that post office. So D.C. had to come in and put its post office, Great Britain had to come in and put its post office in up there. If they didn't, Spain or France was going to do it. So by opening up the Benjamin Franklin Post Office in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he took the entire government system back down to the original location along with the flag and posted that Title IV flag up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And by doing so, since the birth certificate system ended, he now presents everybody with a claim of life, thereby shipping you out of the land of the dead and back onto the land in the civil jurisdiction, law of the land, where the blood testifies to the life. And with that, reconstitutes the entire American government again in a proper manner under the correct Title IV flag, using the correct communication, parse, syntax, grammar to establish all of his systems of government on this planet for you to then conduct commerce here in the United States. There are no more laws, rules, and regulations in relation to the old system. They've all been disqualified. So in 2017, Commander-in-Chief Russell J. Gould goes back to the Federal Reserve in Washington, D.C., And since the building was supposed to have left the United States because the end of the third and final international bankruptcy had come to an end, the Federal Reserve was, the Internal Revenue Service, which was the collection agency for the debt, had to be kicked out of the country because the bankruptcy had come to an end. It was over. So the Federal Reserve should have ended as well. But because it didn't leave, and for 17 years it sat there operating in a fraudulent manner, Commander-in-Chief Russell J. Gould goes down there and tells those guys, hey, why is this building docked on my land? I'm levying a fine against you. So he levied a fine against the Federal Reserve Board of Governors for having that vessel docked on his property. And the fine was 17 million tons of gold that he wants to use to assist Mr. Donald John Trump and Mr. James Mattis, Secretary of Defense, and the rest of the military and the people of this country to resubstantiate the government here, back the nation up, and create a new monetary system and place the values in his bank and on his platforms, place those values on his stock market platforms so that the United States can start conducting international commerce and trade again. He's been trying as hard as he can to try to get Mr. Donald John Trump's attention, to try to let him know what he's doing. He's trying to give Mr. Trump a flag and let him know, hey, I'd like to authorize what it is you're doing. I'm behind you with the clean out. 110%. This is something that he tried in 1999 to clean this apparatus out in 1999 and couldn't do it because he didn't alert the military and no one knew what he had done. He moved so fast no one knew what he had done. So the bad guys, the deep state, kicked him to the curb and kept moving forward. And that deep state apparatus is the deep state apparatus that Donald Trump is now finally cleaning out of Washington, D.C. And this is the reason we're bringing this forward. This is the largest national security secret in the history of the nation, if not the world itself, in relation to how it took down all the powers globally, how it was reconstructed, in relation to the mortgage, housing, financial crisis of 2007. This entire national security secret was revealed to us. We've gone through the congressional record, we've gone through the presidential papers, everything's there, it's all chronicled there. You can find it there. We've listened to the Navy SEALs scream, we've listened to my commanding general, Major General Jerry Boykin, say get involved. The Navy SEALs are yelling to get involved. Everybody's yelling, get involved, to us former special operations guys, to us military personnel, current, past, future, present. Get involved, figure out what's gone wrong, and fix it. Well, it's been fixed, guys, and it's been kept from us for 17 years. This gentleman is a national hero and deserves a medal of the highest honor. He saved the country, he saved the flag, he saved us from a surrender, a secret surrender, domestic takeover here in the United States that nobody even ever saw coming. And I'm sure that when the attorney generals and the rest of the people here in the United States get a hold of this story and they do the research on the 3 international bankruptcies in the United States and they see how this apparatus works, they're going to come to the conclusion, the same conclusion we have in relation to what we found here. What is literally staring us right in our faces all day long. And that is that this gentleman deserves a medal of the highest honor and is quite frankly a national hero. What's going to happen if the United States doesn't adopt this new quantum system? Because it has its own elemental chart and its own periodic tables, this thing was considered genius by the Department of Energy. And the rest of the world got a hold of this thing. And I can tell you right now that if the United States does not adopt this system, and this system of grammar to create contracts on this planet, the bad guys will. And if those guys start creating contracts and subject the United States to their whims and their wills in relation to this construct, they will crush us like we have never been crushed before. Laws will be ironclad. Regulations will be ironclad. However, if they do not have Commander-in-Chief Russell -J, Gould's thumbprint and signature on those documents to substantiate the executive authority required to legitimize such a document, it's not legal. But I can tell you this much: if we don't adopt it, the bad guys will, and they'll crush us. They cannot get around the elemental chart and periodic table. They cannot get around the mathematical construct of that grammar. It's a fact. It is what it is, and it's taken down all that is taken down. So from where is it that they have the ability to move forward from in a manner that would allow them to disqualify such a platform? They can't. So if we don't join with it, they'll take it, and it will be to our ruin. So the yellow fringe flag doesn't come from any nation. It's not registered. All flags are registered around the world with the United Nations. None of them in their copyright and patent have a yellow fringe on them. The yellow fringe was added after because everything's been captured in the international admiralty and maritime jurisdiction of the sea in a shipping war. So the yellow fringe denotes that it's been captured by the shipping war. But the shipping war is based in the international admiralty and maritime law of the sea. So the yellow fringe flag doesn't have a nation because the sea is not a nation. It's not registered as a nation with the United Nations. So when he captured the Title IV flag, as clearly laid out in Army regulation, the yellow fringe is a desecration of the flag. So he removed it because he destroyed the international admiralty and maritime jurisdiction of the sea when he took it over. So he removed the yellow fringe off it because he's captured the shipping war and released everybody from it by shipping them back onto the land, at least here in the United States. So the yellow fringe flag doesn't have a nation. It's based in international admiralty and maritime law of the sea. Well, the sea is not a nation. It's not registered at the United Nations as a nation. So the yellow fringe flag is a flag of the sea. Well, the sea is nothing. So it's a flag of nothing. Basically, it's a corporation. It's a huge corporation, but they're using that admiralty and maritime jurisdiction in violation of its jurisdiction on the land in an act of warfare against the people, saying you're all boats and little vessels. Well, you can only claim a little boat or a little vessel if I'm out in the middle of the water. As your flag clearly denotes, you have a yellow flag or yellow fringe around it, saying we're at admiralty and maritime law of the sea. Well, if you're on the land, you're in violation of your jurisdiction, therefore you're conducting inland piracy. So these guys and their entire system globally, they are nothing more than pirates. That's all they are, and they've declared everybody else to be a vessel or cargo that they can rape, plunder, and pillage. So they're literally, this is a global group of pirates is what this is. So, yeah, wild, right? Wild. Over the last 10 years, we have gone and spoke with Commander-in-Chief full colon Russell-J. full colon Gould several times. And he has continually told us time and time again that he's tried to reach out to Washington, D.C., to the administrative personnel up there to tell them what it is he's done, because this is being kept a massive secret away from the masses. And he keeps trying to make contact. And every time he does, he's not recognized, or his work is obfuscated. But he's been trying to get up there this last year to tell President Donald John Trump that, hey, this is what has happened, and I'd like to give you all the authorization in the world that you need to run the country legitimately, and I will back you all the way, but you've got to reach out to me. And he keeps trying to get up there and tell the guys, hey, this is the reality of what's happened here. You know, I know you think there's something else, but it's not. When you look at the 3 international bankruptcies of the United States, this gentleman has walked this out. And it has been done. And he did it. And it needs to be recognized by the rest of us. And this is why we're bringing it forward to the rest of our community, to the Special Operations Command community, to the SEALs, to the Green Berets, guys like Ben Smith, who had the balls to step forward and make a stand, to the guys like Larry Ward, who had the balls to step forward and take the stand. This gentleman had the balls to step forward and take the stand for this entire nation. He captured the flag. He rebuilt the Constitution, the banking Constitution. He resubstantiated the entire global construct in a correct manner in an effort to correct the criminal malfeasance that is running wild on this planet, that none of us are happy with. A birth certificate system that has us all enslaved to it from cradle to grave, to include our children for generations to come, that literally ended in 1999. This entire system ended in 1999, and he's been trying to tell everybody, hey, look what I've done. Take a look. Stop with the Black Lives Matter. Stop with the race wars. Stop with the sideshows. Stop all this stuff and take a minute to look at what's happened here in the United States in relation to those 3 bankruptcies. And you will see what this guy has done. And the tyranny that we are all under the oppression of, these laws and these rules and these regulations that are being stuffed down our throats through the states' territories by the former 3 administrations that have been in there since 1999 to 2017. And thank God Trump came forward. And thank God he's in there. And we're behind everything he's doing. In relation to all of that, the system has been corrected.